we need to take the fitness of our brain the same way we take care of our body. Bill Gates was always telling me success is a very lousy teacher. I was the longest serving, chairman.
Welcome to another episode of the Daily Coaching Podcast. I'm really excited to announce a very special guest today. The Daily Coaching Podcast is where we talk to players, managers and specialists within the game of football and coaching. And today, a very special guest that I'm joined by, somebody who was the ex-chairman of Microsoft Europe and is now a sports and business mental fitness coach. I'm absolutely delighted today to be joined by Jan Muhlfeit. Jan, thank you very much for taking the time to join me today.
Hi, everybody. Hi, David. Thank you very much. And thanks for the great pronunciation of my German name, because it's very difficult.
Been practicing all night, mate.
Oh, excellent, excellent.
But yeah, Jan, obviously really honoured to have you on here today and really excited as well to go into your story and get some real pieces of advice from you for myself and also for the listeners out there today. Now, obviously, because the Daily Coaching Podcast is predominantly, like I said, a football and coaching type podcast where we talk about obviously sports and coaching in specific, I want to kind of take it back to your youth and, really start to understand how and when did sport first enter your life?
This is an interesting question because I love sports since probably like 3 years old, and all sports because, I'm formerly from Czechoslovakia. Now those are two countries, Czech Republic and Slovakia. So it's obviously ice hockey, football, handball, basketball. But I was professionally, I was playing tennis for 10 years. I was playing in the era of Ivan Lendl. Ivan was, much better. He's 2 years older than me, but I was doing with gymnastic probably. I was doing pretty much all sports, including like a long, distance running, right? I'm running like 10, 15K every day. Now I combine it with like Nordic walking. I'm close to be 60, but I do a lot. And even those 22 years when I was in Microsoft, I was still doing a lot of sport, like every day before my day, 1.5 hour. And maybe in the afternoon before the dinner or whatever, swimming or some biking, stuff like that. So pretty much, all sports. But I love, soccer. I love football very much.
Nice, quality. And an interesting question, why? Why did you do all these sports? Obviously, because sometimes people do it for the physical.
You know why? I ask this question a lot. And I'm a very curious person. Curiosity is helping you with creativity. Right. And if you are curious, and if you are kids are all curious, kids are asking a lot of questions, and then suddenly school is coming, and in the school, you are learning how to answer the questions, not how to ask right questions. So the school, according to the study from NASA, is killing creativity because 98% of the kids, when they are 6 years old, they are showing high creativity. If we are 25 years old, it's only 2%. Okay. And basically you asking a lot of questions. If you are curious, you are asking a lot of questions, and then you are looking at the world from kind of the helicopter. There are more, options in your life. And curiosity is helping you even with the mental toughness. Because if you are fearful or if you are stressed, stress is pretty much fight, flee, or freeze. Okay, it's like kind of the negative zoom in. Why curiosity is positive zoom out. So imagine, even if you are a soccer player, like one of the top, soccer players I coach on the mental side is Patrick Schick from the Bayern Leverkusen. That's the guy who scored from the midfield, against Scotland when Czech Republic played. And the guy is really curious. There's a lot of curiosity in Patrick. And this is the way how he can improve his game, because he can think, hey, this is what I can do with the ball, and that curiosity is like becoming creativity. And then you can apply it in the game of football.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, because something which I always think gets neglected so often is reflection. And that kind of is curiosity in one sense. You're reflecting on why. A lot of the time, for example, if again, a child, you use the example of, if they go along to a football session, and let's be honest, typically it's probably because their parents are taking them along there, but they don't know why.
Exactly. And Dave, there is a great book called Wrench, is the name of the book. And the guy, unfortunately, I don't remember he's a David, but I don't remember his surname. But anyway, So the book is basically asking the question, is it better to be specialized very early in your childhood for some activity that doesn't need to be sport, or is it better to be broader? And it's clear it's better to be broader. If you look at the top athletes like Federer was playing basketball, football, right? And stuff like that, because, the movements are different. You are, in the different situations. And then what is happening with your brain? Basically, all, activities you are doing are getting mental representation in your brain. Those are like synapses connecting, different neurons. Okay. More you do it in the different, fields, you are better equipped, right? Now, neuroscientists, they found out it's about repetition. Repetition is much more important, short-term repetition than like long-term. So if you are learning language, it's better to learn like every day, like 30 minutes, as opposed, Sunday, 8 hours. Okay. What I have heard what Jose Mourinho did now, right? He's obviously with AS Rome. He put the huge, panel, a huge display on the stadium, and immediately they play during the training, and immediately he's pointing out, hey, this was good, this was not good, giving them immediate feedback, because that's another learning what we've got from the people like Andrew Huberman, who is one of the best neuroscientists in the world, that we are learning mostly from our mistakes. Okay. And we are very much in the school, in the job, in the sport, demonizing the mistakes. If you will do that mistake, you will not play anymore. You will, be at the bench, next, right? And we are learning mostly from our mistakes. Bill Gates was always telling me, success is a very lousy teacher. So you learn a lot from your errors and the mistakes. Because what is happening in your brain? If you make some mistake, then the peak of adrenaline is created in your brain. It's called neuroadrenaline, the adrenaline which is created in your brain. And then it's telling basically your brain, hey, this is really important. You need to remember it for the future. This is really, important how to do it. So what I do with my athletes, there are like 3 things, every day, they need to do. Remind what was going well, repair what was not going very well. Okay. It's called in psychology reimagination or reframing, right? You reframe what was not going well, so you basically replay it, and then imagine how you will do it in the future. Remind, repair, and imagine. And then what is happening in your brain? Dopamine, which is reward hormone, is created, and you feel good if you like finishing the day like that. You feel like, hey, I did something well, I learned something, and this is the way how I will continue. That's number 1. And number 2, you have an energy to continue in that activity again and again and again. And that's how you learn the mastery. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. Do you know what? So many great points there. And it's interesting, like, some of the points picked up on. So the crossover of sports, like, there's, again, like you said, there's so many players. I mean, I think they said that Bastian Schweinsteiger could have been a skier at some point because of the skills that he had. As well about the element of the first stages, and I always, when I coach young children, it's never about like the first session. Say, for example, within football, it would never be dribbling. It's fundamental ABCs, because ultimately that's that crossover. If you learn about agility, coordination, those movements, which are, it's the whole element of, you can't run before you can walk. You need to learn these fundamental coordination movements, which then can hopefully be transferred into any given sport. And again, the thing about the repetition and reflection, things like that, again, big believer of that. I think that, I always talk about repetition and awareness and reaction, because the awareness and reaction elements is where you're going to get the players making, or players or business people even, making decisions and solving problems. And if we solve problems and make decisions, like you said, sometimes we're going to get it right, sometimes we're going to get it wrong. And the big word which parents hate, they I'm not say parents, I mean everyone in life hates this word, but I thrive off of it: failure. Everyone's so scared of the word failure because they feel as though, like you said, haven't made it onto the bench, and now I'm on the bench for the next game and I've missed out. But actually, failure is an opportunity to put those decisions right and solve those problems, and then go into, like you said, the reframing of, well, how will I do it differently next time, and what will success look for me like next time?
Yeah, absolutely. And then there is a Professor Erickson who spends like 50 years studying, top performance. In his book, Peak, He's talking about performance, purposeful performance, and deliberative performance. Basically sorry, not performance, the practice. If you will do like practice, whatever, without any like coaching or whatever, you may, improve at the beginning, but then you will be, at the silo. Okay. If you do like purposeful practice, which means like you may, study, you may watch, YouTube, and you may go according to some plan, right? But again, there is some silo. But deliberative practice means that you have a coach, and after each and every activity, you're getting the feedback, what I should continue, what should I stop, and what should I start. And this is deliberative practice, is when you are really getting, better and better. This is it, right? This is it. That's why even like top guys, like I spent some time with Rafael Nadal 2 years ago at US Open. I was coaching some Czech tennis player, right? And Rafa, during his training, he is probably hitting the ball with 30% more power as opposed when he's playing. He's making his training really, really very tough to be in the zone, because if you train in the zone flow in general, we call it, those are moments when that activity is very difficult for you. So it's very challenging on one side, but you're using your best skills, your best talent. So this is the flow where we basically perform at the best, right? And if you are able, and this is the deliberative practice, if you are able during the deliberative practice to be in the zone, in the flow, you're learning very fast. According to the study from McKinsey, they figure out if people are in general in flow, the athletes are in the zone, they are 500% more productive. They are learning 450% faster, and they are 400% more creative. This is why I'm saying champion equals talent. Talent plays some role, multiply by effort, that repetition, the training, and multiply by the time you are able to be in the flow, because more you are in the flow, your championship, if you will, is getting better and better. This is it, right? This is it, because the thing with our brain is, as I said, all activities are like mentally represented in the brain. If we manage, if you go to the fitness and you manage let's say 100 kilos in the bench, your brain is going to the comfort zone, more or less, okay? And it's used to, hey, it's I'm fine. It costs you some energy, but this is it. So you need to move another level, right? It's called homeostasis. Like you are getting your brain to use for that level. So you need to move again and again. So it's important to move out of the comfort zone. What I'm saying, that if people are more curious, it's easier for them to move out of the comfort zone, be more creative during the sport, and also they cope much better with the fact if they are losing or with mistakes. Because some athletes, they are so, it was clear at the Olympic Games. So I think Olympic Games, it's great thing, don't take me wrong, but it's demonized. Oh, it's only in 4 years, what if I will not be able to do it? Okay, you go, you play or you compete. Okay, so nice peak of adrenaline is released. It's called adrenaline, and you feel like, hey, I'm looking forward, I wanted to compete, I wanted to be there, and so on. And then suddenly in your brain will go like, oh, if I fail? It's only in 4 years. And your adrenaline is getting bigger and bigger, and then your performance goes down. If you concentrate too much on the result, it's the beginning of the end, right? You need to concentrate. You cannot, even as a football player, you cannot influence how your opponent is playing, even how your other players from your team are playing. You can influence only your performance, and this is what we should spend majority of the time, to go really step by step, one present moment after the other, right? Because the issue is, if we are over motivated and if we are fearful, we are no more in the present moment, we are no more concentrated. And that means, for example, there is a ball flying, right? And, the brain works in the following way. Hey, there is some, action. So your senses are basically bringing you, hey, this is the ball, this is the speed, whatever, and then we are not reacting immediately. We are reacting, and that our reaction is based on what is in our long-term memory. Sometimes we call it subconsciousness. Okay. If you are 100% concentrated, if you are here and now, chances are that you will react in the proper way. You will score probably, like by head or by feet, that doesn't matter. If you are not in the present moment, you may take some, photography of your past from that bank, from the long-term memory, but it's not necessarily the right photography for that particular situation. That's when, it goes, somewhere, right? And you will not be able to score. And this is it. And once you are not able to score, it goes again, like, hey, I'm not in a great shape today. It's not good. What if I will not play, next match, and stuff like that. And amygdala, which is like small, monkey in your brain, is creating those stories. And if you will start to believe in that story, I think champions are champions because they don't believe their thoughts. Okay. Because the thought is generated by your subconsciousness. Okay. Champions are, champions in doubting. They are good in doubting their doubts. You know what I mean, right? So they are able to kill their doubts. And this is it. This is what it takes. And to return back to the present moment and, and continue, right?
No, 100%. And it's interesting because, like you said, so many of these players, or even in journeys in life, when we're looking at sort of careers, we always think about the long term straight away. And it's like, as a player, getting to a final, as a business owner, getting to a stage where, we're owning multiple elements of our company. We've got X amount of employees or clients. And like you said, I think it's that whole element of that, looking back, using the past, but also, like you said, doubting the doubts to be able to help us along that journey. And it's interesting because, obviously, again, like you said, you've used a lot of sort of like the sport analogies, and obviously, like you said, you was quite curious when you was younger, obviously going into many different sports. How did you kind of get to a stage? Because obviously, as a young child, we always enjoy sports, and we always think, we're going to make it into some sort of sporting realm or element. How did the Microsoft pathway and journey come about? Because I know that before we spoke on here, you mentioned about, like, in your early 20s, you was working sort of, in sort of the sort of restaurant areas. How did that come about?
This is funny because once I finished university, I work in the public sector, in the police, for the science and technology department. 2 years before changes, and 2 years after the changes, right? And but I was bored by, like, it was a nice job and everything was fine, but I was bored. So some of my friends, they persuaded me, and because I was a computer expert, I joined a Czech startup called Software 602. Okay. And because I was the only one really speaking very well English, I was, doing a lot in terms of, like, negotiating with the partners abroad and so on. And I spoke at a different, conferences. And Microsoft offered me in '93, in the January '93, job in Prague in their subsidiary. And I refused it. I refused the first offer. Okay. And Microsoft very rarely would offer you another job, but they did, 6 months afterwards. And I joined. So it was I was prepared because because of the English, and I was very much, while my education was mainly computers, after all of those changes, there were a lot of, like, new books about marketing, business, and stuff like that. So I was, like, eating those books, right? 91, 92. And then in '93, I joined. And then what happened, in '95, they said, hey, you are quite smart person, but you are not, business person yet. And they put me on I got it was called award, presidential award for excellence in '94 after 1 year, right? Because I was a marketeer. But they put me in some special program. It was called Bench, couple of people around the world, talented people. And we would get, David, like 1 week a month, some special guy like Philip Kotler for marketing, which at that time was absolutely number one in the world, right? Mike Kamey for the strategy, right? Eduardo Bono on creativity. So I've got really like 10, 12 different like top, leaders. I obviously you learn a lot, right? So, I think I was quite talented, but obviously Microsoft helped me a lot. And then it was like, okay, I've got always like 2-3 years the job, and then I was promoted. Right? And when I was a chairman for Europe for 8 years, I was the longest serving, chairman. Obviously, my goals were like business goals, but I've got also like when Microsoft was having this problem with the European Commission on antitrust, I was supposed to help to settle the case. So I would say like Jean-Philippe Courtois, who is now Microsoft president, when I was leaving, he put like 3 things in my press release. Number one, that I was 4 years in the row best performing worldwide, which for me was like winning Olympic Games. And I've got a lot of like that kind of the notion of never give up. You know what I mean? From the sport, really. And people who knew me, they were like, yeah, it's clear he's a sport guy. All right. So 4 times in the row, best performing, region. Then he said in that press release that I normalized the relationship between Microsoft and EU, which was the case. And then I help, improve education worldwide, because education is like deeply in my heart. It's still, I was chairing, the roundtable for the World Economic Forum on education, and I was advisor for the European Commission. So that's in the nutshell. So it was a very successful. On the other hand, I must confess that I love my job, and I was working so hard, and I didn't have enough. While in sport, you have like, hey, you basically do sport and then you have a recovery. You do sport or you train and you have a recovery. I didn't have huge recovery, and I love what I was doing. But unfortunately, after many, many years, the bubble bursted, and I was for 6 months deeply depressed. And for 3 months, I was in the mental hospital even, right? And I almost died. So it was very, very tough. So I know how your brain works if you are winning Olympic Games, but I know what you feel like when you are like, hey, I'm like checking out from my life, right? And this gave me, as Nietzsche is saying, whatever is not killing you is strengthening you. It strengthened me, right? Because I have a lot of knowledge how brain works from my own experience. And I study by the best, like, Tim Grover, who was for 15 years, he was a coach for Michael Jordan. I had a training with him and with FC Barcelona for 6 months, some online training and stuff like that with the former US Navy guys and stuff like that. So I learned really from the best people to create, some structure around my experience. Obviously, a lot of things from Microsoft. But I must say, David, when I started to work with athletes, my first athlete was David Svoboda, who won Olympic Games in London, okay, in modern pentathlon. A lot of people were saying Jan was a great manager, but he has no clue what to do with athletes. And I think after what Patrick Schick did and what happened at the Olympic Games, I think there are no more like doubts like that, because this is nothing like, it's nothing bad against, those people. But I think your brain works. It doesn't matter where you are in Microsoft, in some, job in sport. The brain works as a brain, right? And if you have some bad time in Microsoft, it's a very similar having a bad time in football, for example, or in tennis, right? Or on the other hand, if you are super motivated in sport, the chances are that you can take it also to the business. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, Hunter, and it's interesting. Again, you mentioned a bit about the the eating, the learning, and eating all that information. And I suppose the question kind of is, it's everyone can kind of take on information in different ways, but how and when and why did you decide to utilize that learning and then put it into that kind of pathway in which you're doing now, and also I suppose what you've done within Microsoft as well?
Yeah. Sorry, I've got it. Because I just needed to reply. I am alone in our house with my mother-in-law. She's 91, and I'm taking care of her. So she sent me some urgent, but everything is fine. So sorry if I lost the eye connection. I'm like, yeah. Interesting question, David. I was in Microsoft almost 22 years. It was in 2014 in the summer. And I started to think, hey, I'm doing this job, Microsoft chairman job for, 8 years. It's long, so maybe I do something, maybe I go to the US. But I said, no, I'm European. I wanted to stay here. I like US, for sometimes for a couple of months, but, I wanted to live in Europe. And the other option was to work maybe for some smaller but friendly company to Microsoft, because Microsoft was great when I was really, at the bottom, right, in my career. Microsoft was very nice to me. And then the third option was really just to leave. And, in my career, people are like, I was recently doing some interview when the lady, she asked, how comes you came so high? You went so high. And I said, because I never planned to go there. I just like the journey. Okay. And the same, I was, having a couple of those guys who got, medals at the Olympic Games, and they were very nervous. I said, no, you just go and you will see, where maybe next time in Paris, whatever, right? So I really concentrate. I really like the journey. I really like and I was very much inspired by that, right? So I basically finished. I was sitting in a couple of boards, right? That was part of my job. Then I started to coach some business people. I started to teach my seminars. Now I have like 7 different seminars, which I teach with the guy, for example, for the team seminar, how to create winning teams with long term. He was a captain in the Czech basketball team, Pavel and David. I mentioned the Olympic Games winner. I teach, unbeatable mind seminar and stuff like that. Even with so seminars. Then I created book, The Positive, Leader. We wrote it with my friend, with Melina Costi from UK. Now there are another 2 books which will be now published in English: Unlocking Children Potential and Family as a Team. So there are like 3 books. And then it was funny because I was also coaching the beauty queens. Yeah, which was quite interesting. I thought that to work with Bill Gates would be the best job in the world, but obviously there are also other good jobs, right? And no kidding. And I think it was 2015. I was in the jury for the beauty queen competition for Czech Republic, and David Svoboda was also, that's the pentathlon guy. He was there, and we started to talk. He said, that would be interesting if you can, help me to get ready for the Rio Olympic Games. So we started to work on that. Then I was invited for the Czech Olympic Games committee, meeting. And suddenly they said, this is really good. What you do? Let's make it, much broader. So what I do basically seminars for the coaches and for the athletes. And I work with almost 30 athletes on one-on-one, basis. There's a lot of athletes, they travel, and a lot of athletes, like, they are Czech origin, but they are playing, abroad, in the different, right? So this is it. So I really enjoy it. And I do sport addition to the business seminars and coaching. I do sport and athletes, but I also train like 7,000 small kids, It's called Unlocking Children Potential. It's absolutely top-notch thing. So there was like 8,000 parents and 7,000 kids. It's a special training on self-awareness, how they can figure out what are they, talents, and then to work on them. And I have my counterpart, Katarina, she's like 28 years younger than me, so she got a small children. So we work together, and it's really, really good, so I enjoy it very much. So it's a very, very broad, what I do.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. So I actually, I didn't know that element about the children as well. And I've always said, in my eyes anyway, I think the best coaches are the people that can adapt to the different individual needs.
Absolutely. And I can tell you, when I started like 6 years ago, I talked to them like a professor. They didn't have a clue what Jan was saying. And then it was going like step by step. Today, I'm really able to talk. We are starting with 6 to 7 years old, but I also do work with some kindergartens to work with such small kids and really lover kind of my vocabulary and everything, and they are able to really understand.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's so interesting. Like you do have to adapt to it, especially as well, like in that coaching realm where, like, 1 till 2 p.m. you're working with somebody who has, like you said, someone like Patrick Sheep who's got, all these credentials already, and then you're going to work with 2 till 3, a 7-year-old who doesn't want to be there, and the parents making them be there, and you've got to try and somehow adapt and motivate and get that person engaged in what you're saying and what you're doing. So yeah, no, I love that. I love that.
You would be surprised because people think, hey, this self-awareness stuff, it's so tough for the kids, but kids are really smart. And if you are able to really localize the message for the kids, they are able to figure out what are their talents, what they like, even if they are 6, 7 years, old, absolutely, and then we can create very different system because they can learn in the school through their own talents, not like, hey, because the school is putting everybody like, hey, this is it. This is the way how we will learn. It's like memorizing. And if you are learning, for example, history through the story, right? Then, it's not only chemical changes in your brain, but it's structural changes, and you remember it for a very long time, right? If you only learn the dates of the battles, you may remember for a couple of days, but then it's gone, right? But if you will learn like, hey, this is the story. That was the guy who was a leader there. This is what happened there, right? This is it. Because story is the way how we are handing over, information and data for many, many years, even before, computers and any technology.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think the thing is, where it's credit to yourself is, and even you mentioned again about book and things like that, the unlocking of potential. But it's not to knock teachers, because teachers do a fantastic job.
No.
Because they're doing sort of, like you said, a structural sort of curriculum, which is obviously set out by governments and obviously guidelines and things like that. They have to teach in a certain way. Whereas people like coaches like myself and you, we're able to understand, I said, what are the individual needs? How do you unlock that certain potential? And potentially also you get to spend more time with them, because like you said, you do 1-to-1, whereas in a classroom, you're doing 1-to-30. And, that interaction time and that building of relationship time is so minimized.
Yeah. And then David, what I'm able to do also, because the chances are that if there are like 30 kids, okay, for math class, okay, the chances are there are like 5 kids really excelling in the math. And you can use those kids coaching the other kids. I remember when I was like 54 years ago, when I was 6, I was a first class, and I was very fast with the math. And then I was a naughty. Okay, so my teacher, she was giving me, much more work. And she said, in case you will still finish earlier than the other kids, you will go around and you will help them. And I was like, calculating all this stuff so I can help the other kids. And it was amazing, right? Yeah. And you can do that. You can do that. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. And it brings that social element to it as well, like we were talking about before, the psychological and the social side of things.
Oh, yeah.
An interesting point, because again, talking of sort of teachers, they go through obviously qualifications and university degrees, and sometimes with coaching, like a lot of the time, coaches will go to sort of like you said, seminars and talks, and almost a bit of independent learning as well along the way. Obviously, you can go to do psychological degrees, which may help along that journey.
Look, what I did, I always have like Czech Technical University, but then what I did, I have some courses in places like London School of Economics, Harvard, and Wharton, kind of the mini MBA. Now I have like all certifications and stuff like that. There is a great organization in UK actually. My dear friend, Anne Scholar created it, even though she now, she's like on the background because she's more on academia. It's called Mail Campbell, and they have very close relationship with the Harvard Coaching Institute. So I'm the fellow at the Harvard Coaching Institute. So I work with some of the best coaches from around the world. Like every Friday we have a session, like 24, 30 coaches for different continents talking about, different cases, what we can do and so on. And there is a lot of, good stuff on internet. If somebody's really interesting in coaching, Anne Scholar wrote a book. It's called Business Coaching. But even if you are a sport coach, you can, use it. It's probably, I call it, my name is on the, because I wrote some, recognition for Anne. So I call it, coaching Bible, because there is everything. There is a like coaching methods, how to set up your coaching business, what kind of pricing you should have. And really, it's kind of the tiny book. It was, similar to my book, the Positive Leader. It was, published in the FT publishing series, right? So really good book. So business coaching and school,
No, that's quality. And what would you kind of define as a mental fitness coach? Because I think sometimes
Okay.
people say they're coaches or mental fitness, but what does it actually mean?
Yeah. Let me first distinguish between mentor and coach, and then I will talk about mental fitness coach. Okay. So mentor is somebody who, based on his or her experience, is giving you a lot of, experience, a lot of information, right? But you are listening, so it's not taking that much energy from you. Coach, on the other hand, is asking a lot of questions. There are not that much, information, a lot of open questions. So you need to think a lot, and there's a lot of energy required from you. That's the difference. People like me because I have a very broad experience. I think I'm mentor and coach. It's good not to mix it, right? But anyway, if I coach somebody, we go like coaching. We have like 3-4 different solutions. And that person would usually ask, how about if you would be on my place? And that's mentoring advice. Okay. So that's distinguished. Now, mental fitness, what I mean by the mental fitness and mental coaching, right? I think, and that was even my experience, I was able to have very good physical rest during my career in Microsoft, right? But unfortunately, not enough mental rest, and it almost got me. Okay. And I think people are underestimating the fact in the past, our predecessors were like hunting, having a rest, hunting, having a rest. That's what athletes are doing, right? Playing or training, rest, playing. Like in the business, we like hunting, and then there is, depression or at least burnout, right? So we need to take the fitness of our brain the same way we take care of our body. Why? My case, even though you like what you do, you can still be depressed from that. Because if you are very often in the zone, in the flow, hormones like endorphin, dopamine, if you are the team, serotonin, oxytocin are released, and other chemicals during the rest are supposed to clean your brain, basically. If your brain is not clean, it's going step by step, your performance, mental performance goes down. But then basically all of those, hormones, like the good hormones creating the fact that you are happy, like serotonin, are gone. And then when we are, depressed because we don't like what we do, we don't see the sense of our life and stuff like that. So this is why the way we, train our body, I think we need to train our mind. And then obviously the tools, okay? So it's breathing, it's your body, it's your mind. So it's like mindfulness, it's yoga, tai chi, all of that, visualization, stuff like that. But also be able to kind of because today, 10 years ago, I would still tell you, mindfulness or, meditation, it's so difficult for me because my brain is going like that, right? And my brain was almost destroyed after the depression. But I can tell you, if I could learn how to meditate, and I learned really like following my breath. And today I'm like able in 1 minute to basically switch off my brain, more or less. They just measure me, right? And this is it. This is what you can learn. It's again a repetition, but it's important. And that's why I'm sometimes sorry because some coaches, coaches of the teams or the tennis coaches are saying, hey, if my player needs to have, your support, that's fine, but we should not do it for everybody, which makes, no sense for me, right? We getting there step by step. I think it goes like in US, or like NHL, NBA, they have like sport. I'm not sports psychologist, but they have at least mental a coach or stuff like that, right? And it's going like US now. It's getting from Western Europe more and more, and I think it will hit countries in Central Europe very soon. But this is it. I think it's not majority of my athletes, I'm not kidding, are coming to me, hey, I have this issue, I have this issue, I have this issue. Okay. Before that, they don't even know that there is somebody who can help them. And I think if you play well, if you are like Patrick Schick, okay, you are almost like you are on the way to be Ronaldo. And mental coach can help you to basically, because that's your expectation. This is where you are. You at the European Championship, you are very, close. You are closing the gap. So you know what I mean, right? This is it. So you are able, to help people who are performing well to be, champions, right? And funny enough, a lot of like in the tennis, because tennis, it's really a brain game. It's like chess or fencing and so on. So they realize already that this is it. So that's kind of what is, mental fitness coaching. Now, okay, why I'm so religious about mental fitness coaching, because I think it's getting like better and better in sports. Step by step, we are getting there, but in the business, we are almost nowhere.
Really?
Business is behind. I mean, business, we have a coaching. Well, we don't have, I mean, look, if I speak to some top, manager, some CEO of the bank, okay, and I'll be very open with him, hey, I screwed it up. I was in the mental hospital for 3 months, whatever. Then they are opening, and I can tell you like, that every second business person got some issues. Okay, I would say like 30-40% are on antidepressants.
Yeah,
really, right? But we are not talking openly about those things. And because today, if you are like top manager, you are like top athlete, but you don't have that team around you, like massaging, physio, you know what I mean, right? Mental coach, and so that's why I'm always, whenever I'm coaching, I'm like, okay, I'll coach you on the business side, absolutely, how to improve your business results. But the best way how to improve your business side is to make sure that you are fit physically, but you are fit also mentally, because you are leader. You need to lead them. If you are in the mental hospital, like me, you are not leading it. You know what I mean, right? Yeah. This is it. So that's why I'm, kind of the religious about it.
No, it's quality and it's needed. It's honestly, it's so needed. And I think you make a great point there. I think like, the people that almost need to be targeted are the decision makers. And like you said, the leaders, because ultimately that's going to then filter down to everyone below, hopefully, if they're
exactly. It's leading by example.
Yeah.
It's leading by example, right? Because if you take it seriously, then, others.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, look, there's been some fantastic pieces of information and some fantastic nuggets for people to take away. If there was kind of one sort of overall advising piece, and whether it be sort of going to an external person like yourself or something someone could do individually, what would your advice be to a player or a coach in terms of the mental fitness side of things?
In general, really, understand who he or she is, the self-awareness, right? I tell you what, Patrick Schick, one of his talents from the Gallup talent test is deliberative, which means that he is able to hit the ball, whether by, head or by the feet, just in time, not too early, not too late, just in time. And once he realized, hey, this is it, who I am, this is the way, those are the genes I've got from my, predecessors, right? Then obviously he was able to use it on kind of the day-to-day play. So self-awareness is key. Yeah, right. That's, give me one sec. Okie doke. So self-awareness is key. Understand who I am. Then second piece is what you want to achieve. Okay. Do you want to be like number one in the world? Patrick Schick wants to be number one in the world, right? Obviously. Okay, this is it. This is what I want to do. Okay. And the third point is you need to decide how to use who you are to achieve what you want. Okay. Because if I would talk about Patrick, he's now working on his physicality a bit, more, right? And on his, mental toughness, he worked a lot on the body language and stuff like that. That's clear. And he improved, so much, right? And this is it, because when he started to work 3 years ago, he was a very good player. Now he plays fantastic. He was like the last game again, he scored the one goal was again. He was in assistance and so on. So again, understand who you are, understand what you want from your life, because if you have a sense of your life, if you have a purpose in your life, that's the best on your journey, because then you have an emotional connection to soccer. You have a huge emotional connection, and you don't care, okay, maybe I screwed up one shot or whatever, that's fine, right? Or maybe we lost even in the Premier League, whatever, that's okay, provided that you love what you do. Do you have a really strong emotional connection, and you are like pissed off for some time, but you return back to your journey, right? And then that decision, because people still like think, hey, should I do it? No, and maybe I'm not good enough. No, you are not defined by your conditions, you are defined by your decisions. And if you decide, hey, I will use, because what can you use? If you will see my drawings, it's still like when I was 6 years old, so I'm terrible, right? If we would talk about Jan's ability to create strategy, create some vision, communicate, I think I'm quite good, actually. And that's what I thought in Microsoft, right? So this is it. This is what I'm, using, right? This is it. And then those decisions are, key to really understand who you are and use it to fulfill your purpose. And then there is another thing, okay? If you are so good, for example, in the soccer, if you are so good player, Messi, Ronaldo, and you are making other people happy through what you love, the soccer, then you are super happy, right? And it's a very fulfilling, right? It's not only, it's fine. There's a lot of good players getting a lot of money. That's fine. And it's fine. It's good to get a lot of money, provided that you love, what you do, basically, right? That's what Bill Gates was always telling me. I love Microsoft so much. The fact that I became the richest person in the world, that was like an external thing. That was a side effect of my emotional connection to Microsoft.